Okay, we're gonna do a unicorn design. So the designs we're gonna focus on today are things that go really well with your bling. So they're not necessarily made for just.
Yeah, the volume, so it doesn't mess us up.
Oh, the volume's supposed to be muted on the TV.
Oh, look
I
at
just
me.
forgot to take it out.
Me. Look at me. I made it, Mom.
Okay. It is supposed to be off on the TV.
15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. So I'm going to focus on a few designs today. We always do a little bit of teaching at our jams. It's kind of how we have them set up. Is you can come, you can shop, you can learn from each other, and then we also show you a couple things. So what I'm going to do is a unicorn design that you can use with the painted horn or with a unicorn horn. And I'll show it to you if you turn this way. Can everybody kind of sort of see? And if you can't see, it'll be on the TV after. So to do this, it's really, really super fast, and it's mostly with one stroke. So it starts with those two loops. You can face towards the camera. And you can see that I already got paint on your nose.
And my hair's also in the way.
You would just have a tiny, tiny forehead. I usually don't use wipes. I use water with some. Whenever I have to take paint off a kid's face, I don't ever use wipes on their face because I find that they are a little bit too harsh. And because baby wipes have oil in them, your face paint won't stick to the. It won't.
When you do video, you do side ones.
Yeah, I'm moving the camera because I'm noticing that I'm standing in front of it.
Now, I noticed that there's a time delay. Is that so we can edit out Lucia swearing?
We got 20 seconds.
You get to be
Okay. So these little tiny loops right here, those are going to be the insides of the ears for the unicorn. Because I want to be able to paint this as fast as possible, which means I'm going to load up my brush the least amount of times that I need to. And so by doing that, it means that I don't have to worry about it or fill it in later. So that's all with the one brush. Can you turn your head all the way this way? That's all with one brush for the base of how I start this unicorn design. You can get up and walk around if you want me to do that.
Look, why are you? I wish I was.
Which one stroke are you using?
Neon Nirvana I can show it to the camera. It's a Neon Nirvana from the Leanne's Tropical Palette. It's also available in a 30-gram cake. And I'll be using the top three colors I'm using the whole cake for the main, and then the bottom three colors, the neon yellow, neon orange, and neon pink for the horn. Come have a seat, please. So when I'm doing the unicorn horn, what I like about this cake, and there's another one called Leanne's Island Girl and Leanne's Summer Crush that all have these three colors beside each other. And what works really well with this is I can use these three colors for the unicorn horn if I'm painting it on, and I don't have to get a cake. They're all just right there. And so to do that, I always start with the darker color towards the bottom, and then I do 3 U-shaped strokes right on top of each other, going into a triangle. And so that way I get a really pointy unicorn horn when I'm painting it on. I don't have to load my brush a million times because it's just that 3 colors with the same stroke, that one stroke cake that I already have in my hand. And that's the rest of the base. The only thing that I really need to add to this is white. And then I can go back and add an outline if it needs it, but because I'm using this one stroke with that deep, dark global purple on the end, it doesn't always need that extra outline.
You look so pretty.
Thank you.
Is that what someone said in the online
No,
chat?
that's me.
Okay.
That's my own comment.
So when I outline this, I use a number 6 brush and my white paint, which has disappeared over there. Do you have the tester for the white? Yep. Great. Need it.
Yeah.
So this is our new line of paint that we brought in, which is the Crivoline colors. We have their creamy line and their regular line in stock. We also have split cakes from all 3 of their lines. So they have 30-gram cakes and 50-gram cakes in the regular line, and 40-gram cakes, which are kind of an in-between shape, in the creamy line. And if you've used other brands before, the regular line should be quite similar to Diamond Effects, and the creamy line should be quite similar to Global. So when I'm painting this unicorn, I'm going to start with my brush perpendicular to the skin for the top of the bottom of that ear, press down fully. This is a number 6 Hokey Pokey round, and then I come back. So I'm doing perpendicular to the skin, press down and come up to a point, and then down and down to a point right there. That's what makes that ear shape. And it's super, super, super fast because it's just one stroke. I don't have to lift up my brush at all during that process. So same thing for this ear. And that way I get that cute looking little ear. And I have a whole bunch of white on my brush, so I can use this to put in some highlights. I can put in some dots and some swirls and things. What I'm going to do here is, this is a number 4 Hokey Pokey round, and I'm going to add in some swirls with some snow petrol. Because I'm using a contrasting color for the outline, I want to make sure that gets into that unicorn horn so that you can kind of see it. Otherwise it looks out of place. So that's why I'm kind of putting in an outline. And when I outline this, I'm not giving it a full outline, because if I do a full outline of that unicorn horn, I have to be really precise. Whereas if I just flick up with my brush in little tiny strokes, I don't have to be precise, and it's all just right there. It doesn't have to be symmetric. It's all does the work for me. So all of these petrol blue swirls, they're just extras, and you don't necessarily need them if you're doing this design really, really, really fast. They're just something that you can add following the lines of those one stroke marks from before. So the alternative way to do this design is to use a unicorn horn bling right here, and that way you don't need to paint the horn. If you don't want to do that, then you can use a pre-made bling, and you can still put it at the bottom of that horn, or you could use one that has more of this kind of a shape, where it's more of a triangle shape, because that is going to sit right on top of that horn. Okay, do you want to walk around?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, sir.
I guess you didn't expect to get your face on YouTube.
It's
when
really
first found
fast.
that.
Oh, just kind of stupid.
Yeah.
If you need, I left the tab open for.
Oh, for my list.
Yes, in case you need it. I have it.
I think my hair fell down again.
That's okay. Do you want sparkles or do you not want sparkles?
Whatever works.
Well,
I think he
sparkles
wants,
works for me.
I think he wants sparkles.
I'd need a new T-shirt
I think
anyway.
he really.
I won't put sparkles on. I will put on pixie paint. And how I'm going to put this on is I'm going to put quite a bit because this is unicorn, so it needs lots and lots of sparkles. So what's nice about the silicone ones is you can spread and move the paint around without, sorry, instead of up here. You can spread and move the paint around without the glitter gel a lot with the silicone wand because it's not getting stuck in the bristles of a brush. So I can take this and I can put it very gently on top of my paint. I can place it in all of my negative spaces. I can put it, it's really great for covering your mistakes, the pixie paint. You can just like put it on wherever it needs a little bit of extra. I make tons of mistakes. I'm just really, really good at pretending I didn't make them. It's supposed to be like that. What are you talking about? So even with this tiny bit of glitter on my brush right there on the silicone wand, I can still get a really good swipe that covers that on. And because this paint, the base of this design is already pretty much dry, you can really put the gel on top and it's only going to reactivate the paint a little bit, which is kind of nice. And whenever I put gel on top of the design, I'm pressing down. I press down and lift up. I don't push or move it around too much because once you start moving it around, it really starts to get super, super smudged. Okay, so we're not going to put loose sparkles on you because that would just get everywhere. And because your paint is dry, they won't stick very well. And we could use water on an applicator to... we could use water on a brush or on a silicone wand, or gently mist the entire face painting design and then spray on loose glitter and it'll help it stick, which does help really well if you need to reactivate your paint. But you don't necessarily need to. So glitter gels definitely work sufficiently to get enough sparkle most of the time. My favorite part about the glitter gels is they don't blow glitter into my kit if I'm working outside. When I'm working outside and I spray glitter everywhere, it ends up in my paint, it ends up on me, it ends up on all of my stuff, and it drives me crazy. So to do the glitter gel instead, even if it's a little bit more expensive in product, it's still, you make that back in it not getting everywhere. And it has a lot of wow factor for that effect. So, what else do we have? I think we have a mermaid design that I have planned.
Yeah.
No, I think I remember
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I don't forget everything. Who wants to model for a mermaid design?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can model for it.
Okay, I'm out of here.
Yeah, you're out of here. Kicked out. Yes.
Couldn't we just shave his head and do the other side?
So we do that.
Yes, go wherever.
He's a boy, you take off his shirt and paint all over the place.
There you go. More real estate.
Yeah.
That's okay, I'm gonna
What's that?
He's spilling tea down his shirt.
Okay, everybody can watch you.
I know, it's great.
You can see so over the
Lika.
I was just taking off the sparkles.
Extra sparkly. It's okay, you can be extra sparkly. Okay, so we're gonna do a mermaid design using one of our new crinoline cakes. So I have on my sponge some Superstar, it's the gold without the glitter in it, which is 141, and I have the golden green shimmer, which is 129. And I'm just gonna put that, I'm gonna start by using that as a base over her eyes.
What was the other color?
129 Ocean Shimmer. So this is one of the new Splash Half Moon sponges. They used to be purple and they've changed them to be gray. And I put some on our sample table if you want to try them. Yvette, do you want to pass them around? They're in this container there. And they're really squishy. They do work nicely with the Superstar paint, but they're definitely a lower density than Paint Pal or Tag.
But they can see me and not Rika. I mean, I know I'm very interested to look at something too, but
Let's see if they can see it.
I can see that better. Actually,
Yeah, you can see them now?
yeah, on my computer it updates very fast.
I think it's just because it's going to the tablet. I think the tablet's a little bit slow.
Should I stream it from my tablet, from my laptop?
If you want.
Make it quicker, because it's a very big delay here. Can I try it?
Yeah? Just you're responsible if it crashes and the people are asking what's happening.
And things explode. Oh man! Right.
Okay, so this is the cake that we're going to use for this mermaid design. And it's called, I covered up the name with my tester sticker, so I don't know what it's called.
Came up with that name.
What is it?
Pretty creative.
It's Crivaline, yeah.
Is it Luna?
No, it's not Luna. Luna is blue, green, yellow, and something else. Teal.
Yeah.
This one is a different color. I think it's called Beach
Party.
something like that. It's not called Beach Party. I think it's just called Beach. We can find
I
it
just like making up
afterwards.
my own names.
So when I
It sounds
load
like a
this,
party.
I'm gonna load it on the curved part of the sponge because I find I have a lot more control if I load things on the curved part versus on the flat part. I like the shape better, and I don't get as many rectangles. So if I'm doing something like a kitty cat, then I always load it using the flat part of the sponge. But for the most part, I tend to prefer loading it on the curve, just because I find it gives me a nicer shape. So when I'm applying this,
That's a little bit faster.
That's a lot faster.
mhm.
Must be nice.
So I'm just blending this into the gold and green shimmer from before. And I know that's a really heavy on the greens and the yellow bits, but we're going to stencil on a mermaid with one of the new tap stencils in this section with the blue side of our sponge. So it'll be less green all over the place. So the other thing I find I do often with my sponging is I do like a rocking motion where I'm going like this instead of like that. And I find that it gives me better coverage and more control. But everyone has a slightly different way of applying their sponges, so.
So you use the rounded part instead of the.
Yeah, I have it loaded on the rounded part instead of on the flat part.
Oh, okay.
But I'd had the gold and the green shimmer loaded on the flat part because I wanted to have a sharper corner to get really into this part of her eye here.
Okay.
Whereas I find you can't do that as well with the corner of your sponge. And you can a little bit, but it's not quite the same. Okay, so that's the basic shape. I need to stencil and I put my sponge down. So this is one of the new tap stencils. They have a whole bunch of new stencils out. I think there are 12 or 15. It's definitely a multiple of 3. And they have new unicorns, mermaids, henna designs, and fairies out. And they're all about this size, and they make really nice little centerpieces. So this one we're going to put right up here. And I'm going to use this top section of my sponge where it's darker to stencil that in. And because those are blues and purples, if they mix together and it's not perfectly even, it's okay. Can you hold that stencil on your face because I forgot to grab the glitter? Actually, we'll use this one. So we have these new little organizers, and I'm testing one out with glitter in it. So they're these little tiny pots. And what I'm going to do is, because our silicone ones are made out of silicone, they're slightly staticky, which means I can stick it in that little glitter pot and have this really nice little coating of glitter, which I'm going to take, you can let go, and press onto that stencil. So my paint is still a little bit sticky, but what I'll end up with is a sparkly mermaid.
We need the signs there. Hold them up, right?
Okay, we have this. Let me use this brush. Yeah, I can use this brush. So I'm doing the thing that makes your split cake's uneven and pulling some of that global purple from the neon banana cake, which you shouldn't really do because it will make it wear dents in your cakes, but we won't tell anybody. So what I'm going to do is, this is the new Zen script brush by Royal Langnickel. We just brought them in about 3 weeks ago or so, maybe. I don't know. Could you remember when we brought them in?
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago. What's nice about it is it really, really flows. So I can put in some of those swirls, which I'm going to cover up with a stencil later anyways, but I can kind of put them in and they just keep going.
What brush was that again?
This is the
Zen.
Zen script brush from Royal Langnickel. It has this really sleek gunmetal handle. I do believe it's made out of wood, not acrylic. And they have golden talcon bristles, so they're super, sorry. They have a really nice point to them,
Yeah, see that.
and it's super flexible.
Something else just went on my shopping list.
They're priced really well too. I think they start at $7.99 and they go up to $9.99.
Oh, that's
So they're not too bad in terms of price. Okay, we need to put some waves on there. So this stencil, it's one of the BAM ones that people see all the time and don't ever buy because it looks really complicated, but it makes really cool waves for a mermaid design instead of doing scales everywhere. And we're gonna load it with some more of the Crivoline white, and I'm just adding a tiny bit of that petrol blue to the end, just by rubbing it from the very, very end on my finger dauber. And that way, when I tap these in, they're going to be this kind of blue-white effect. So what's nice about the finger daubers is even with the bigger stencils, you can really place where you want your design to go. And it's really helpful when you're doing this kind of delicate stenciling. But I do find that this stencil has a lot of movement to it. So it works really well for this kind of mermaidy design because it has that sense of motion. It really needs another little dauber. I can kind of pick and choose which of these little swirls that I want. I can turn my stencil around and put it in all the little corners, and I don't, because it has these oval sides, it's not going to press in her eye or anything like that. It does lie on the skin quite nicely, even though it's a bigger stencil. I'm going to tap some in there. then to tie this all together, we're going to add glitter at the end, but we're also going to use some of these gems. They're crushed jewels, is what they're called on our website. They're little self-adhesive gems. They come in a whole bunch of different colors. So we have this pack, which is kind of a purpley green, and then we have a baby pink and a blue, a lighter pink and a darker blue, and then we have ones that have a different size selection. So what's nice about these is you don't have to spend the time to make your bling. You can just stick them on and they're good to go. And then for glitter for this design, what are we going to use? We're going to use this one. So this is more of our Hokey Pokey Dance Party Pixie Paint, which is exclusive to the store. We actually worked with Erica Harrison, who's the owner of American Body Art, to design this pixie paint. And I like it because it kind of goes, it has a little bit of pink and a little bit of green, a little bit of blue, so it kind of goes with almost any design that you want to put it on. And we'll do some, actually we have glacier blues, we'll use glacier blue sparkles. And tilt your head up. So I'm putting most of this glitter that I'm poofing on, I'm putting it mostly on top of where I put the gel. And then that way it'll kind of stick a little bit better, and it'll make those spots really glittery and won't detract from the overall rest of the design. So I could go back in here and add more highlights. I could add a different color of outline. You could highlight the mermaid, or if you're doing something that's at a faster event, you can just leave it like this, because it's pretty elaborate already. And do you want to walk around? Yeah.
Someone is asking also if you're going to be doing any boy designs.
Not tonight, because we're having a bling focus night. Because their theme is making bling. Some gems. Oh, it's so little! Is it good? It's so cute. So I'll get you the big ones so you can compare.
I think I have the big one.
You have the big ones?
Yeah,
Did
I
I
just
sell
brought
you
the little
big
ones with me tonight.
Did I sell you one of these stencils, or did you pick it out?
Probably. I don't know.
I only discovered it recently.
No, okay, but I don't have it. I just have
More
that.
like a fairy.
I don't have the big one.
You? There are certain stencils that I really like that now everybody has because they come into the store and they're just, we should try this one for this design, and we should try that one for that design.
It's not that, but I mean, like my glasses.
It's a great color.
Mhm.
See what,
I did. He said he told me give day after he goes. It's really, really nice. I want to try this one. I definitely, he showed me the mock-up for it, and then I was talking to him about stencil design and some other things, and after he had cut this one out, I asked him to show it to me stencil. And it does look really cool. It does. Do you find it a little bit finicky to use?
It needs a little bit of tweaking, but not.
That's good. Oh, it's 7:30. That's great. Does anybody have any questions about those two designs? Or about making gems? Or about making bling self-adhesive?
That one.
Or, or about other face painting stuff in general?
Making bling self-adhesive.
It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
So,
I don't have to buy that. Glue?
great on the skin with the body glue.
Yeah.
okay. So, on the parchment paper in here, because parchment paper is really the trick to make this work.
Yeah.
And on the parchment paper, I have these gems that have been stuck on here for 2 weeks. and they haven't fallen off. And how they're stuck on is with Prozaid. So I put on 2 coats. I have 1 coat, let it dry completely, and then put on another coat, and then stick it to the parchment paper. And with this parchment paper, the gems are still sticky on the back. And they'll still stick to the skin really nicely. So you can see that's totally stuck. And if I start moving my hand, it's like pulling up on my skin. Come around and show everybody. It's really,
That's what
you
you
can try
use
and
on
pull
there?
it off. It's Prozaid.
Prozaid?
Prozaid.
Prozaid.
Yeah, all of the body glues that we carry have a similar base. Prozaid is just the medical grade adhesive, and it's used in the special effects industry a lot.
Okay.
You can see it's really, really stuck on. Do you want to try and pull it up?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I've had the glue on this bling for about 2 weeks, testing it to see if it's still sticky, and it's definitely still sticky.
Yeah.
And what's nice about this is it's self-adhesive, essentially. You prepare them with the glue ahead of time before your event. Then you can do it well before you have to be there. And they shouldn't come off. If they do come off, which happens with gems anyways. Yes, I'm gonna come over to that side. So it sticks just as well, if not better, than when you have Prozaid and you just put it on and let it dry and then stick it on right at your event. It's really, I don't know, can you see that?
I can see that you can
Yeah.
see it, yeah. I can see the back.
Oh, okay. So you can kind of see how stuck on that is. It's pulling at my skin. In a good way, in a bling is stuck on kind of way. So that's what I do to make these all self-adhesive, is I have them, there's parchment paper on this little frame. You could do parchment paper in a book. That's really the main thing. It's parchment paper with the Prozaid on top of your bling designs, and then that keeps the adhesive flexible enough that it still sticks to the skin, and you still get that really nice bond without having to stop and put the glue on and then wait for the glue to dry and then put more glue on and then wait for that to dry and then forget about it. You have to stop and put it on. Yeah, that's what I've been doing to stick those on. And you can see Luke's bling from the unicorn is still stuck on his face, even though it's been kind of wiggling around and moving.
Emily, what's the longest you've gone with it being on the parchment paper before you've used it?
My first tests were 4 days, and this one has been on, like the ones that are on this piece of paper and the one that I stuck on my hand has been on the parchment paper for
2 weeks or 3 weeks.
since before I had a week off. So
That's really good.
I was away.
And then beginning of July.
I was away on the 9th. So the Friday before the 9th. Does anybody know what day that was?
Six.
The 6th. They've been, so the one that's on my hand has been stuck on that frame on the parchment paper since July 6th. And I haven't touched it. They didn't move at all. I've done a couple different tests with them, but that's definitely been the longest. And it seems to still be sticking. That's staying inside the store, so they're not exposed to humidity. Whereas if you have them outside, that might alter that time. And I haven't tested it with humidity yet.
I wonder if in a plastic sheet, if that you put the parchment paper in that in a plastic sheet as well, that might even last longer.
That might last longer too, yeah.
So it will dry out.
The Prozaid sticks best when it's dry. So the parchment paper kind of helps it keep a little bit of moisture, I think, is how that works. But it's more, it gives it a surface that it will come off from to really form a temporary bond with, so that you can still remove it and stick it to the skin. And what I like about it too is it doesn't wrinkle the parchment at all. I started making the blings with the fabric paint on parchment paper as well, just flat. And you know when you bake cookies that your parchment paper wrinkles a little bit? It does that because it's drawing the moisture out of that fabric paint. They dry super fast. I can make blings in the morning when I come into work at 9 a.m. and they can be done by the time I leave at 2. It's great because I'm really impatient when it comes to leaving them on plastic because I have to leave them for a whole week. And then I'm always lifting them up, and then I ruin them, and then I have to redo them. And this way, if I do them on parchment paper, they're done fast enough that I can just make them and then use them almost immediately. So what's good about the Pros-Aid is it doesn't cause that wrinkling on the parchment paper. But it's generally, that's my new favorite bling thing, is the experimenting with parchment paper and really kind of seeing how far I can push that. But yeah, does anyone have any other questions about stuff?
Where did you get this
Here?
IKEA? That's what someone else was saying, by the way, too.
It was $1.50.
A little sand, you mean?
Yeah.
This little,
Like
yes.
collapses.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to be paused?
Maybe. Is my phone real?
No, you're live still. It's just maybe.
Maybe you pause your tab on the computer. This collapses, which is really nice because then you can put this in a bag so that your blings don't. So that doesn't happen, and so that your blings don't get caught on stuff and fall off. And then this stays nice. You can put it together so it's nice and flat. You could do it on any kind of frame or in a book or.
Yeah, but you've got a nice little stand on here,
Which one is it?
very versatile.
So, should we end the live stream probably?
I don't know. Is there?
Are there any other questions on the live stream?
I can ask.
Oh, we should do the door prize.
Oh yeah.
We should do the door prize, and we also have a prize for people. That's okay. We also have a prize for the people who are viewing live. Can you tell the people who are viewing the live stream that we have a prize for them?
Yes. And by the way, there's a question saying if you recommend a good rainbow cake.
For what kind of rainbow?
For what kind of painting? One stroke or
Yeah.
just blenders?
That too. There's a ticket to your door.
Thanks.
Nadia, do you want to draw the door prize ticket?
Of course.
One
If you
stroke.
want one,
One stroke.
I didn't put your ticket. No, you don't have to take it. Everybody else does.
One
You
stroke.
too? No. You, it's okay.
okay, and the winner is.
Copper glasses, what you can do.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now we know who brought me something good before. So I still
We're doing
have
online
it.
cards as well,
Yeah,
right?
we are. How many beers do we have?
So 0034703,
13
and the winner is
I can't find.
anyone?
Yeah.
03.
Probably her.
By the way, it's the person.
Mine is 04,
Yeah.
so-
No, was it, which number?
34703. Do you have a
I think
ticket?
it's you.
Martin? Yeah.
Is everybody looking at their ticket?
Because mine's 04 and she got one before.
I didn't have it.
Ticket! I have to pull out the new one.
No. If it's nobody else, it's got
I know I saw
Oh,
it.
it's
Changed my
okay.
six.
Stacy doesn't want it anyway.
Did you put it on top of your stuff here?
Did it go? I
Is it
swear.
underneath here?
Maybe it's under
So,
there.
no, because I saw it before I went downstairs.
So how we will do the draw for unlike yours?
We're gonna plug them into a random number generator.
Okay, and while we do that,
Yeah.
some questions. Oh,
Yeah, so we can
Yeah,
answer
she's got
questions about stuff from. Did you find it?
703?
Yeah!
So I have for our door prize, I have a thing from Beauty So Clean. It's a cosmetic sanitizing mist. And what's really nice about this is you can put it on your face paint and it doesn't ruin the consistency. It's meant for going on cosmetics, and so it has ingredients in it to keep it from drying out your products or keeping them from cracking and you know, getting that kind of weird consistency that happens when you add too much alcohol or water or anything to your paint. So this keeps that from happening, and it makes your paints all clean.
Thank you.
Okay. So what are the questions, Emma?
So I have so for the rainbow cake, they're looking for a good one-stroke rainbow cake. That's one question. Another one was what was the name of the cake you used for the mermaid? Wasn't that the
Beach from Criveline.
beach?
So this is Leanne's summer days, and it's a really nice neon rainbow that's an alternative to tag Carnival. That's what it looks like. And I'll show it to you on my skin. You can see here.
So this is what you would recommend as like.
This is one of the rainbows that works really nicely for like a neon rainbow effect. It's kind of a little bit lighter than the Leanne's neon rainbow, which has a darker red and a darker blue in the end. That's a really punchy rainbow. This is a little bit lighter. The other one that's really nice from the Leanne's collection is the Leanne's Lollipop, which has same color order as this cake, but with purple on the end. So it's also a little bit darker than this combination, but same level of contrast. So does that probably answers those questions.
Yep. And
And this is the mermaid. That's the split cake that was used for the mermaid design, and it is Priviline Beach.
so another question here with regards to the blings, saying you're making it on parchment, then removing it
Mhm.
and putting it on a new piece
Yes.
with the prosade.
So it gets made with, the blings get made with fabric paint. So they get made with fabric paint on one sheet of parchment. They dry, then those, as they dry, kind of pop off the parchment. The dried blings are all lined up and they have prosade put on the backs of them. That coat of prosade dries completely, so it dries nice and clear. Then another coat of prosade goes on so that you have enough coverage on your whole design. That goes nice and clear, and then they go on a new piece of parchment. And that's the piece that they come off to be stuck onto the skin.
So are they still a little tacky when you put them on
Well,
the
prosade,
brand new or completely
so
dry?
prosade never actually dries completely.
Oh.
So prosade always stays tacky.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be that same level of kind of tackiness when it comes off the parchment as it was when it went on. It's a similar kind of level. I think it might be slightly more tacky, but I haven't done a formal test for that. Is that all our questions?
Yeah, and I think we're gonna do a draw online as well.
Yes, we are. We have a draw for our online viewers today. And if you can't make the next jam, we'll probably do another live giveaway for our online viewers as well. So you can still tune in and you can still win something. I have a bunch of our gems and one of the fabric paints that we sell. We carry a selection of fabric paint. It's the same price that you can get at the craft store with a 40% off coupon. We just sell it for that price all the time. And we have it in two sizes. So we have this is the 4-ounce size, and then we also have it in the little bottles as well for a really good price. So that's what we have as our price for people who are watching online. And are you going to plug them into a...
So I'm just trying to find a list of everybody.
You can't find the list as far as I'm concerned. You can't actually tell who
So can I just get whoever's like kind of commenting?
No, they're gonna
you
pick
tell
from the
people to
live
comment
viewers?
something, everyone
From the
who
live
comments, you
viewers,
tell
I'm
them.
thinking of a number between 1 and 10, and the first person to get it gets the prize.
Okay, that's also another way
Starting
of
now.
How many guesses do we get?
6,
Oh, they're
9,
playing along.
7.
Yes, who said it?
The first person to say 7 was Kate Marie.
So she gets the prize. Email me at the support email.
Okay, I'll tell her.
And then we'll close off our live stream for tonight, and then we can still hang out until 9 o'clock and paint and talk about making bling and share designs
Shopping.
and shop. Yeah. So for the people who are viewing live, we'll show you how we have this set up. We have Amram controlling our live video, and then we have our snack table where everyone's contributed something. We have all of our people who are here to participate on these tables set up with their kits and everything. And then over here, we have our sample table with testers for everybody to try in our little lounge area. And then we have everything recording for everyone in the classroom space as well on our TV. So everyone's kind of seeing all of our designs that we're going over twice. And that's how we have it set up. So thank you everybody for tuning in.
Yeah.
For saying bye.